Great to be back in this auditorium to welcome our travel agents, tour operators, cruise lines and airlines to the second of this year Amtt Meets Travel Trade. The auditorium is a focal place for people to see recordings from a variety of destinations, including Samoa, Miami, Finland, Grenada and Denmark. But most of all, people are here to meet our fellow Amtt members who are on their exhibitor stands and in their private meeting rooms. So Tracy, I'll leave it to you to welcome everybody.
Thank you, Alison. And thank you to all of you for joining us today. Now, when today's event was scheduled, we had, of course, anticipated that the summer season would be in full flow. But sadly, our industry remains tied to the ebb and flow of the COVID crisis. This is a pivotal time for our destinations as we continue with our reopening programs and ready ourselves again to welcome those visitors that we know are dying to come and see us again. It's absolutely essential that we keep those lines of communication open with all aspects of the travel industry. And that's why you're so important to us to be here today, so that we can help you relay with clarity the information that your customers need to proceed with their bookings. We're clearly heading along a bumpy road at the moment, but please have faith that we are moving forward and that demand remains strong. So what I would say about today is to use the time to build those relationships with our destinations and understand how and where you can find the relevant information that you need. Amtt will continue to be here to support that knowledge continuously as we move forward. And please feel free, even outside of our events, to approach us whenever you need a little more support in that information flow. So all I will say is I look forward to meeting many of you through the afternoon. I hope you enjoy the session, and I'm going to hand back to Alison now to talk you through how that afternoon will run. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Tracy. Yes, and of course you are on the Gibraltar stand for anyone that hasn't realised that yet. So what you do now is you go off and you meet with the different destinations. As I said, 14 of our members, so that's 25% of our membership are there to see you. You can pop into those that have pop-in sessions. There are others that are doing webinars and presentations at set times, and you've got the program in the auditorium underneath the screen. And then you can also go in and just have one-on-one meetings with those destinations that you particularly want to talk to. There are going to be prizes, so there will be a prize draw at the end of the event in the BYO Cafe. 14 lucky prizes, from vouchers for up to £50 to fam trip places. So very exciting prizes to be won. Ammt's website is amtt.com, and on there you find the contact details of all our destination members, our 60 destination members, whenever you need them, and also our contact details. So please do keep in touch, enjoy the afternoon, and we look forward to seeing you at a future Amtt Meets Travel Trade event. Last but not least, if you have not got time to look at all the different presentations today in the auditorium, please don't worry. This part of the program, it will be recorded and will remain on the platform for further 24 hours. You can also go to the digital library during that period and download anything you want. So your main focus during the live part of our event is to meet the destinations and get to know them and ask those questions that you need answered. Thank you all very much, and you can find me in the BYO Cafe or on one of the stands. Thank you very much. Goodbye.
If Polynesia was a family, Samoa would be kind of like the kingpin great-grandfather. Technically, every Samoan is considered royalty, but it all comes down to how good of a royal can you be. I mean, sure, if you got ties to the Ainga Tupu, it helps, but anything is up for grabs in a Fono o Matai if your falupenga is on point, and once you got the Tama a Ainga title, you can secure a spot as the Ola au Ola Malo.
It's time to learn geography now!
go! This is going to be a fun episode. I love the Pacific Island nations because they are some of the least studied places on Earth with some of the most vibrant stories and traditions. Also, yes, we did have a social media campaign to try and get Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson in this episode. Art and I actually kind of went up to his management office in Beverly Hills to see if we could reach out to him.
Yeah, so we showed up at his management office and it was kind of awkward. They kind of looked at us like we're like from outer space or something like that.
Yeah, we got rejected
We
so
got rejected
hard.
so bad. It's like,
And then the whole coronavirus thing happened, so we probably wouldn't have been able to film with him anyway. So
right.
we overshot the runway too much on this.
We're worthless.
Anyway, in compliance with social distancing practices, obviously Caleb and Jillian live in my house, so they're cool with being in these episodes. Art is one of my closest neighbors. We live within walking distance, so Art's going to be in these episodes too.
And his mom makes really good chicken soup, so it's literally the only reason why I come over here.
And we will have occasional guest stars, but only one at a time: Keith, Noah, and Hannah. That's how this is going to work out.
All right, anyway, let's jump into the episode.
Samoa. You can't have Polynesia without starting and branching out from Samoa. All the Polynesian cousins sailed their ships out from Samoa at one point. And let's see where that point is on the map. The country is located in Oceania in the Pacific Ocean, specifically in the largest subregion known as Polynesia, shaped like a triangle starting in New Zealand, going up to Hawaii, and ending in Easter Island. Polynesia has over 1,000 islands and archipelagos straddling millions of square kilometers of ocean territory. Samoa, though, is located about halfway between New Zealand and Hawaii, sandwiched between their cousins Tuvalu and Tonga. Now, keep in mind, the independent nation of Samoa is different from the U.S. overseas territory of American Samoa, which sits at the shortest distance, less than 100 miles or 160 kilometers away. Keep in mind, though, the most absolutely mind-boggling thing between these islands is that they are literally divided by the international date line, which means they share the same time of day, but are exactly 24 hours apart, with American Samoa perpetually living in Yesterdayland and Samoa in Tomorrowland. Technically, you can go to the future or past within a quick 35-minute flight between them. This is kind of why people typically buy 2 one-way tickets instead of a round-trip package when traveling between the 2 islands. It's like,
Wow, American Samoa was pretty cool, but I think I'll just take one of those 35-minute flights over to the country of Samoa. When will I arrive?
In just over 24 hours.
Wait, what? How is that even possible? Well, when will I return?
Yesterday.
yeah, it can be a nightmare if you've never done it before. In any case, the country is made up of 2 main islands that make up about 99% of the landmass: Upolu, where about 75% of the population lives, and Savaii, which has the remaining 25%. In addition, there are other smaller islands and rocks, such as Manono and Apolima in the Apolima Strait, the 4 Alepata Islands in the east off the coast of Upolu, Nu'utele, Nu'uala, Vanuatapu, and Namua, and finally, small little in the south just by the town of Putasi. Out of these islands, the country is divided into 11 itumalo, or political districts, which are actually tied into historical Samoan communities that predate European contact. And the capital of the country, Apia, is located on the north side of Upolu Island. The country has 1 main international airport, Faleolo International. Otherwise, the country has 3 other regional airports on Savaii, whereas Upolu has this extra one, but it was closed in 2019, but it might reopen. The locals are always arguing about it. From there, each island has a ring road that goes around the coasts, and ferry services operate between the islands daily, as well as ferries and flights between them and the U.S. territory of American Samoa. Keep in mind, all together, Samoa and American Samoa are collectively just called the Samoan Islands. However, sometimes to make the distinction, you might hear the titles Western Samoa for Samoa and American Samoa or East Samoa for the U.S. territory of American Samoa. Yeah, in 2011, they actually moved the country's date ahead 1 day and skipped December 30th. This was actually done to kind of boost their trade relations with New Zealand and Australia. It was like, hey New Zealand, it's Friday, let's do some export deals.
Oh, sorry, man. Even though you're like 1 longitude length away, it's Saturday here and our offices are closed on weekends, man.
Oh,
All right, look, man, this is ridiculous. This whole you being in yesterday thing is kind of stupid. Just switch it up and join our side.
you're right. Hey, American Samoa.
Nah, I'm good.
Fun fact, each Itumalo actually kind of has their own constitution called a fa'avae, based on the order of each district's falupenga. What is a falupenga? Basically, it's like a special greeting that each of the district chiefs have to memorize when they go and visit another district chief.
So it's like a passcode or something.
No, it's a formal greeting acknowledging the history and lineage of the village and introducing yourself based off of your lineage and history. And it's all spoken in proper Samoan.
So it's like a Shakespearean greeting.
Kind of. You have to be very eloquent if you're going to be one of the orator chiefs. For example, like this.
Olá,
Anyway, if you decide to visit, some top notable spots that you guys, the Samoan geography suggested I mention in this episode include the market, or Maketifu, the Samoan Cultural Village, the Robert Louis Stevenson Museum, the EFKS Museum of Fine Arts, the Falea Lupo Ruins, Moso's Footprint, the Salea Ula Lava Field Ruins, the largest fale at the University of Samoa, the ancient Star Mound of Manono Island, the House of Rock, the Vanya Taule Alo Gallery, the Government House. There are many churches and places of worship like these, and there are so many natural spots and so many waterfalls, the most famous waterfall probably being Papapapaitai Falls, and there's so many caves as well, like the Dwarfs Caves and the Piula Cave Pools. The most famous notable spot and landmark though would probably be the Pulemele Pyramid Mound. Also keep in mind they do have a lot of amazing beaches, but almost none of them are public because they are owned by families or villages, so you'll have to pay a little fee to get on the beach. But anyway, speaking of beaches and natural landscape, now let's be for real, when you're in the middle of the ocean alone and isolated, every little bit of land matters. And with Samoa, they got kind of the jackpot. First of all, Samoa lies on the Pacific Plate right at the top of the Tonga Trench, part of a larger highly volcanic area known as the Ring of Fire that circumvents the fringes of the entire Pacific Ocean. The volcanic activity is essentially what formed the islands, as it lies on the Samoa hotspot, one of many noted magma plume upwellings that can be found scattered throughout the oceans of the world. Only one volcano is classified as active, Mount Matavanu on Savaii Island, which last erupted for 6 years continuously between 1905 and 1911. It formed about 40 square miles or 100 square kilometers of new land in the form of a lava field on the north side. The tallest peak of the country, though, is Mount Silisili, which means highest, which is also located on Savaii and is a dormant stratovolcano. From here, the two longest rivers, the Vaimali and Maliolio rivers, flow downward from the central Savaii mountain spine. The largest inland body of fresh water, however, is actually Lake Lanoto'o, a small crater lake found on the top of a hill on Upolu Island, just south of the capital. As an equatorial nation, they fall within the monsoon climate zone, where temperatures are consistently warm almost year-round, and the rainy season lasts between November and April. Occasionally, they might find themselves in the path of tropical storms or cyclones as well. Another cool thing is that Samoa was kind of volcanically formed a little different from all the other Polynesian islands. The distinct lava flow on the sides of Savaii Island were carved by strong waves, creating a complex underground cave system that eventually tunneled upwards to the surface, which is where you get the famous alofaga or taga blowholes. These water jets are created by pressure that flows into the tunnels from the ocean. Sometimes people like putting coconuts on these water jets and then blasting them upwards. Now, as a tropical Polynesian nation, of course, yes, Samoa is very lush and green. About a fifth of the land is arable, and about 2/3 of the country are either employed or involved in agriculture. Agricultural products and fishing in themselves make up about 90% of exports, whereas the service sector employs about half of the workforce, mostly in tourism and hospitality, which make up about a quarter of their GDP. Nearly 250,000 people travel to Samoa and visit every single year, and the number has actually been growing quite a bit in the past few years as Polynesian travel publicity has skyrocketed, with the help of notable Polynesian-based movies and films and stars highlighting their heritage. I mean, Hobbs and Shaw, dang, Mr. Rock, I will never forget that Uso battle scene or the helicopter car chain thing. That's Samoa! In addition, Samoa is known for having a wide array of unique animal species, and with that, it's time for our animal correspondent, Gary Harlow, to step in. Jillian.
Hey guys.
Oh.
Gary Harlow's not here right now. He's actually deworming a blue elephant, but
we need someone to do this though.
Like many other islands of the Pacific, Samoa doesn't have any endemic mammal species, the only true ones being bats and Polynesian rodents. Pigs, dogs, and cats are all over, but were introduced to the islands later by people. Otherwise, the country is loaded with reptiles like the native Samoan skink, the Polynesian gecko, and the Pacific boa. Heaps of marine species like parrotfish, surgeonfish, yellowfin tuna, and whales, and birds are everywhere. Over 80% are endemic and found nowhere else on Earth, like the Samoan flycatcher, the mau, fantail, and the national animal, the manumea, or tooth-billed pigeon. And that's it for me.
Yay! And now we finish off this segment as we always do. Food! Here are some of the top notable dishes of Samoa that you guys, the Samoan geography, suggested I mention. Faiai eleni, palusami, fa'alifu fa'i, otaia, suaia, fa'ausi, kopai, panipopo, panikeke, keke pua'a, keke saina, suafa'i, and very often at celebrations or occasions or even just on Sundays, you'll see the umus happening all the time. Yeah, Samoans are incredibly communal people. They take filial piety and ancestor veneration to a whole new level. And with that, that brings us to... Now, when it comes to Samoa, you kind of have to know Fa'a Samoa, or the Samoan way. Every true Samoan knows about this, and in some way, shape, or form, to some degree, it affects their life. Everything you are and have, from land to water to birthright, are rooted back to the start. It's hard to understand, we'll explain in a bit. But first, Samoa has about 200,000 people and is the country with the highest population of native Polynesians in the world, and there are actually even more Samoans living abroad than there are in Samoa, at about 600,000 globally. The country is made up primarily of native Samoan people, a Polynesian group at about 92% of the population. About 7% are Euronesians, whom are people that are mixed with European and Islander ancestry, in this case mostly half Samoan people. And the remainder of the population is mostly white and East Asian, coming from countries like South Korea and China. They use the tala as their currency, they use the type I plug outlet, and they drive on the left side of the road. The main official language of the country, of course, is Samoan. It is the most prominently spoken Polynesian language in the world, and after that, English is co-official. Again, they have a history with the British and New Zealanders, blah, blah, blah. Believe it or not, if World War I did not happen, Samoa actually might have been speaking German today. In any case, back to the confusing lineage thing. There's a saying in Samoan, ole ala ile pule, ole tautua, which means the path to leadership is through service. Samoa has a very unique system that fuses both modern and traditional ruling systems. Today, their government is classified as a parliamentary republic. However, it takes strongly into account the traditional fa'amatai system. What is the fa'amatai system? Well, it's actually pretty simple. See, it all starts out with the 4 original Paramount Chieftain dynasty families that created the nation, known as a Tama'a'ainga. There's also a 5th one for American Samoa, but technically that one doesn't count. Keep in mind, the head of state or ceremonial president, or the Ole'au Olemalo, always has one or more of these titles in his name. From these 4 dynasties, the 16 royal families, or the Aingatupu, were created. They were the ones that originally ruled the Itumalo. From there, the towns and villages have a matai, which means chief. They meet in a fono o matai, or council of other chiefs. You can be a regular matai or a matai sili, which means high-level chief. The chiefs come in 2 forms, the ali'i or head chief, and the tulafale or orator chief, who does all the talking, debating, and announcing. Once you are a matai, you are generally expected to hold the title until you die. On rare occasions will they cede the title. Keep in mind, off to the sides, there might also be a pule nu'u, a lower level assistant who helps facilitate the matai duties. From there, you have a taupo, a chief's daughter or female relative, usually from the ali'i. She holds an important role in preparing the ava ceremony for the matai events. Sometimes a male or manaya can hold this role too, but often it is female. If a matai dies or is somehow unable to hold the title and it becomes available, everyone in the immediate family is a suli or candidate heir to the matai title, and a series of speeches or concessions begin to find who will become the next matai. Both men and women can fill the role. However, statistically, about 90% of matai have been men and about 10% have been female. From there, you have the unranked plain village people, or the tangatanu, or the taule alea, usually made up of younger people or people uninterested in holding traditional titles. See? Simple. Also keep in mind, the ava ceremony is incredibly important to Samoan culture. It's used for all occasions, but especially for the matai title bestowing ceremonies, like when a new matai becomes a matai. The bitter drink is prepared by people called the aumaga using a tanoa bowl and wringing out the roots of the mildly psychoactive kava plant. If you see this, then y'all know that some serious is going on. Taking all of that into account, you can probably see by now that Samoa is very steadfast in maintaining tradition and culture. Faith-wise, Samoa is pretty religious. About 98% of the population is Christian, the largest groups being Protestant-based, and often you might even find yourself in the middle of a prayer session. If you do, just be respectful, tone it down a little bit, or you can even participate if you want. Traditionally though, their ancestors followed a form of Polynesian mythology that had numerous deities and spirits called Atua and Aitu. Interestingly enough, statistically, Polynesia is one of the few areas on Earth which has a birth rate of males that is higher than that of females. Today, the ratio sits at around 1.07 to 1 in Samoa. Anyway, the traditional house is called a fale, a round, thick, thatched roof gazebo type of structure with no walls, but blinds or nets can be draped down on the sides in between the columns holding up the roof. I mean, the weather is almost warm consistently throughout the year, so Samoans didn't really have to worry about insulation. Fine mats called toga are probably the most prized artifact of the country. They're used in all occasions occasions. They're given away as gifts at weddings and ceremonies and so on. They're used for everything, even when you want to seek forgiveness from someone that you've wronged. It's actually even a tradition for them to cover themselves in a toga outside of the person's house with their extended family members as a sign of atonement. Often you will see people wearing lava cloth. It's the national cloth of the country, worn both by men and women. Usually men will just drape it around their waists. Women will make it into a body wrap dress. During celebrations, ceremonies, whatever, you might often find men doing the Fa'ataupati slap dance and the slower, more poised Siva dance by women. Speaking of which, they have a ton of cool festivals like the Fire Knife Festival, the Fautasi Outrigger Canoe Competition, the Tafasila Fa'i Festival, and the biggest one, Teuila, held around September with the biggest activities, performances, and cuisine displays. And then you get to the traditional tattoos, made out of shark's teeth and soot. And I'm getting kind of tired of all this. Actually, you know what, Art, just host this
Glad
segment.
to see I'm your second
You're the last
choice.
You're the last resort. So yeah.
The last resort. Now across Polynesia, you'll see tattoos everywhere as they are a universal rite of passage. But each island and country has their own unique way of doing it. Unlike their cousins, the Maori, Samoan tattoos don't have spirals or curves. They're typically straight, geometric, and extend from the ribcage to the knees. Men's tattoos are called pea, and women's are called malu. And for women, the tattoos only extend from the thighs to the knees. It's a well-known fact that Samoans are famous for their athletic prowess. Historically, the Polynesian men were trained to be big and strong for warfare and competition. I mean, they even had some really cool weaponry. They had an impressive assortment of clubs, axes, daggers, maces, and spears. Did I just say daggers?
You said daggers.
Did I just say daggers? Daggers! Anthropologists speculate that in addition to the possible genetic predisposition to gain more muscle, the abundance of available sustenance year-round on the island or seas around them allowed them to eat more and gain more mass. On the downside, Samoa and other Pacific islands have some of the highest rates of obesity as well as other health-related problems. In any case, Samoan and Pacific Islander men are top contenders for recruiting seasons in rugby and American football leagues. In the NFL, a Samoan male is often somewhere around 40 to 60 times more likely to be recruited against a non-Samoan counterparts, especially for a lineman or linebacker position, because they are freaking huge, and the NFL wants huge people.
You played football too, Art, didn't you?
I did play football. Yes, I did. I might be considered big, but those guys are like really big. Speaking of big, Keith, he's been eating a sandwich.
Jealous? You jealous of this?
I've never spanked a belly like that before.
Oh, by the way, this is my buddy's band, Protein Collective. They're sick. Go check them out. Due to fair use laws, don't sue us, or placement or whatever. Just don't sue. As a Polynesian country, Samoa is heavily rooted in traditional sounds. As a country with no formal writing system, they depend heavily on oral tradition by documenting incidents through song and dance. Samoans love singing. Check out the Samoan High Note Challenge. Those videos are hilarious. Much of the music can be performed with traditional instruments like these. And maybe some of these. Otherwise, today, modern genres like Samoan-style R&B, poly reggae, and like jazz have made waves of popularity amongst the younger generation. Well, since I don't have a bass today, I guess I can uke my way on out of here.
Thank you, Keith. And now it's time for the very condensed history segment of this episode. In the quickest way I can put it, Austronesians sail in and settle Samoa. The four Tama-Aiga chieftain dynasties begin. The legendary warrior queen Nanafuna starts the Matai system. The Aingatupu royal family is established. More of Polynesia is settled. Samoa is taken over and breaks free from the Tui Tonga Empire. First European contact from British and Dutch in the 1700s. Missionaries bringing Christianity. Americans, British, and Germans all claim parts of Samoa. First Samoan Civil War fought between rival Samoan factions. Second Samoan Civil War. Germany takes over for 14 years. The East Islands become a U.S. territory. Mao movement for independence. World War I. The UK creeps in, kicks out the Germans. Samoa becomes a territory of New Zealand. Spanish flu kills off a fifth of the population. 1962 independence. New Zealand's Helen Clark issues a formal apology for the incidents of the 20th century. Samoa's last king dies at age 95. Samoa switches time zones. Hobbs and Shaw save the world from evil. And here we are today. Some of the top notable people from Samoa that you guys suggested I mention mention in this episode include historical figures like Malietoa Laupepa, Malietoa Tanu Mafili the First, Luaki Namulau Ulu Mamoe, Malietoa Tanu Mafili the Second, as well as Cardinal Pio Taufinu. Tons of professional athletes like these, lots of boxers like these, weightlifters, rugby players, American football players, wrestlers, people in the business, arts, and entertainment area like KJ Apa, Robbie Magasiva, Jay Lagaaya, Beula Koale, Sima Urale, Nick Afoa, Paris Gobel, Albert Wendt, Aggie Gray, of course Dwayne The Rock Johnson, and of course there are so many famous musicians and artists and bands like these. I'm just gonna put a bunch of them up on the screen. And finally, just some miscellaneous ones: Latafale Auva'a, Amy Maslin Miller, Chief Sielu Avea, and the Circus of Samoa. Yeah, for such a small island nation, Samoans have really stuck themselves out as Samoan special. Anyway, off to the last segment, the friend zone. Now, ocean island nations have always kind of been an interesting place when it comes to diplomacy because everything is so spread apart that you kind of need anyone within the vast open void to lean on. That being said, Samoa does have quite a few contacts in their Rolodex. Although Fiji is classified as Melanesian, their close proximity to Samoa helps them act as like a bridge between Melanesia and Polynesia. Business, travel, and trade are not only huge between them, both countries kind of piggyback off of each other as well. Fijians even have their own version of the Ava ceremony, and they even created their own haka chant at sporting events like the Maori of New Zealand. Tonga is kind of like the best rival cousin. I mean, a long time ago they did kind of take over Samoa in the Tui Tonga Empire, and there were numerous battles and wars between them, but that was like so long ago and everybody's forgotten about it. The two are close now. The countries and islands that culturally identify closest to Samoa, though, would probably be their immediate siblings Tuvalu and the three association states of New Zealand, Tokelau, Cook Islands, and Niue. Specifically, Tuvalu and Tokelau have the closest languages to Samoan. Some even say it's just a dialect. They all have very similar customs and cultures, as well as family lineages, as their ancestors fled to nearby islands, intermarried, and kept in touch pretty well. New Zealand is their biggest business partner and specifically plays a huge role in Samoa's affairs, and in 1962 they signed the Treaty of Friendship after independence. New Zealand has the largest Samoan population outside of Samoa. They are the largest hub of travel to Samoa, they are in charge of their military protection, and Samoa can request channels of communication to international organizations through New Zealand. When it comes to the ones closest to them, though, Samoans will probably say the American territory of Samoa. Essentially, they are the same people. Sure, one speaks with a Kiwi accent, the other speaks with an American. One drives on the right side, the other on the left. One plays rugby, the other one plays American football. But otherwise, same people. American Samoa actually had the chance to join them back in 1966 when the UN threw out the option, but surprisingly, they voted to stay as a territory of the US and take on US benefits. Nonetheless, both of them follow the same Fa'a Samoa system of life. They both have the Matai and Fale culture, and overall, they get each other the best. In conclusion, you cannot have Polynesia without Samoa. Everything between New Zealand, Hawaii, and Easter Island starts here. They are masters of the ocean, and if you are lucky to meet a Samoan, technically, you could address them by saying, Your Majesty. Stay tuned, San Marino is coming up next.
everyone. Greetings from Pure Grenada, the spice of the Caribbean. My name is Renee Goodwin and I'm the Acting Marketing Manager of the Grenada Tourism Authority. We are so excited to share some of the special things about our destination with you all today. I would like to begin by sharing with you all that from May 2021, we are expecting our full complement of airfare returning to Grenada. So that would be Virgin Atlantic flying from Heathrow via Barbados, and then British Airways flying from Gatwick via Antigua. We are also very excited that our entry protocols have been updated. So from May 1st, fully vaccinated travelers will have to get a negative PCR result that was taken within 3 days of departure. And once they get to Grenada, they have to quarantine for only up to 48 hours. Unvaccinated travelers, the rules stay the same and they will still have to complete the 3-day test before arrival and then a 7-day quarantine upon arrival. I really hope that you all enjoyed that very special video that we just played for you. Grenada, Carriacou, and Petit Martinique really is a very wonderful island destination. It really represents authentic Caribbean life. Our people are so very welcoming. We are actually known as having some of the friendliest people in the Caribbean. Of course, we're a beautiful tropical destination, so that means everywhere you look is bright greens of the forests and the dazzling blues of the ocean. We have over 50 beautiful beaches and several waterfalls for you to discover. We have great hiking as well. And of course, we are home to the world's very first underwater sculpture park, and we are a great dive destination as well. You cannot talk about Grenada without talking about cuisine. We have recently been accredited by the World Food Travel Association as a culinary capital of the world. We are known as the spice of the Caribbean because we grow so many wonderful organic spices here. Grenada is very aromatic. We have nutmeg here. We actually produce over 1/3 of the world's supply of nutmeg. Cinnamon, ginger, turmeric, cloves, all of the spices that you can think of, we grow them here, and that is why we are known as the spice of the Caribbean. So spices are very important to us. The nutmeg is a very powerful part of our national identity. And of course, we are so obsessed with our national dish, oil down, and I'm going to show you a video right now that tells you why.
Oil down is we thing. Nobody could copy that. That is we national dish. Grenada's national dish. This one-pot delicacy embodies our heritage, character, friendliness, and joy. Each ingredient brings with it a story of its own.
It's a melange of our tumultuous history, our passion as a people, and the love for a little socialization. Watch now. No get-together is a good get-together without a pot of oil. What do you? And rum.
But that's a story for another time.
At the heart of this dish is breadfruit. Introduced to us by Captain William Bligh, you could find a tree in every backyard.
Along with breadfruit is fig. That's what we call green bananas.
And grown provisions like yams, dashi, and whatnot. Now, this is just my opinion, but you can't make oilong without meat. Some people do, and that's fine, but you must have some meat in there. Pigtail, chicken, a little salt beef, crab, or wild meat like iguana, or even salt fish.
No, with the salt fish, you have to soak it good because you don't want to salt the pot. You must also try not to eat out all before you finish prep the other ingredients. That is problems.
Now, the saltfish, originally cod, was meant as a cheap source of food for the slaves. But today, saltfish is Mr. Saltfish. So put some respect on it.
Anyways, dumplings must not be forgotten. Very important. You see, making dumplings is an art. Can't be too hard or too soft, can't be too big or too small. It can't be too sweet or too salty. It must be just right. All you need is a little flour, salt, and water. That is how we like it. Now, to pack the pot. That is the real skill. You must artfully stack all these ingredients in your pot and cloak it in callaloo. Let it simmer slowly in a bath of coconut milk, turmeric, which was introduced to us by South Asian immigrants, curry and other seasonings. Boy, pure perfection.
At Independence Time, you can find pots of oilong smoldering on an open fireside in every community. Look out for the savory aroma and people lining by the pot with their bowlie, fig leaf, or plate, whichever is your choice.
This dish is Grenada's fingerprint. Each pot possesses its own unique flavor. You see oil down? That's a Grenadian thing.
Not only is there tons to do on the islands of Grenada, Carriacou, and Petite Martinique, we are also an amazing dive destination as well. Divers love Grenada, Carriacou, and Petite Martinique because all of our dive sites are within 20 minutes of the shore and we have such an amazing array of marine wildlife here. So I'm going to show you some videos from our last Dive Fest, which was last year, October. It went virtual due to circumstances beyond our control, but we are expecting to have a great Dive Fest again this year in October. So check out these videos about what you can find underwater in Grenada, Carriacou, and Petite Martinique.
Vibrant coral reefs, diverse marine life, and a healthy ecosystem. Grenada and Carriacou should be at the top of your dive destination bucket list. Above water, the tri-island state of Grenada is famed for being the spice island of the Caribbean. Below water, the islands offer equally colorful experiences. Explore a myriad of exciting coral reef formations, from boulder-encrusted to fringing reef. Pinnacles, walls, and canyons add to the thrill. Experience the fun of swim-throughs and admire our volcanically formed underwater topography. Our reefs are healthy too. The diversity in dazzling corals and sponges proves this on every dive. The shallows are home to effervescent vase sponges, huge barrel sponges, sea fans, whips, and gorgonians. Deepwater divers will be amazed by our gargantuan black corals and kaleidoscope array of healthy soft corals. Elkhorn coral is making a comeback in this region too. Reef health is also reflected through marine life diversity. Grenada and Carriacou are a Caribbean hotspot for tropical reef fish, with shoals of chromis and blue creole wrasse welcoming divers to our reefs. With so much to offer, both onshore and underwater, Grenada and Carriacou is a top contender for Caribbean reef diving destinations.
Grenada's Molinaire Bay Marine Park area has an out-of-this-world dive site for you to discover. During 1988, dozens of old cars and trucks were gathered up and placed onto the seabed to create an artificial reef. Laying in 80 to 130 feet of water, this graveyard of vehicles is spread out haphazardly across the ocean floor. Wind your way around the underwater museum. Many cars are indistinguishable as the corals and sponges have engulfed them completely. Now a vibrant artificial reef, there is an abundance of marine life, from shoaling reef fish to black Gorgonian fans, white hydroids, and inquisitive rays. Due to the depth, this is an advanced wreck dive which takes divers to the limits of recreational diving. Fortuitously, Kapile is located adjacent to Happy Valley Reef, one of the most pristine reefs in the Molinaire Bay Marine Protected Area, and the perfect spot to relax and enjoy your safety stop. A unique site that is definitely worth a visit. Underwater photographers and videographers will be in the element. Learn, explore, be inspired.
So, fun fact about diving in our Tri-Island destination, did you know that you can actually get married underwater here and also experience night diving? Pretty cool, right? So if all of these things did not convince you that Grenada, Carriacou, and Petite Martinique is the Caribbean destination of your dreams, I am sure that Anna's video coming up next will.
So I got stuck here with my friends when the UK shut down for the second time round. So it was basically an extension of our holiday time. We've had so much time to really savour the culture, see more of the country and enjoy the nice warm weather, which is a lot different to the UK weather at the moment. We've been so lucky going to all of the fantastic restaurants that Grenada has to offer, the sightseeing, the shopping, purchasing art, visiting the tower, going out in the water, seeing all the fantastic things that the country has. But the greatest thing about all of this is that I'm able to work remotely. I'm very lucky. I work in travel PR and I have a very flexible company who have been happy for me to be out here. So from 5 AM local time to 1:30 I get my work done, and that leaves the rest of the day for all the fun stuff. Swimming, yoga, you name it, we've done it. I've also taken the opportunity to do my advanced PADI course with Dive Grenada, who are absolutely fantastic. It made sense to do it now, not only because I had the time, but because Grenada's diving experience is second to none. It's absolutely fantastic, from the wrecks to the coral to the fish, you name it, we've seen it. I go hiking almost every weekend that I've been here. It's a great way to get out and really see the place and to see the countryside, the rainforest, the bush, and meet some local people. It's been brilliant. I really enjoyed getting to experience nearly everything that the island has to offer, from the sea and the sand to the culture, to the people, to the food, to the music, to the art. And that's my experience in a nutshell, really. My quarantine in paradise.
Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us here today at Amtt. If you ever have any questions or inquiries at all, please feel free to email us, and be sure to check out our website, puregrenada.com, and of course, follow us on social media. We are at Discover Grenada to see all of the beautiful attractions and things there are to do here. Thanks again.
Hello and welcome to this 15-minute presentation about Denmark. Yeah, and as the sharp listener will have noticed, I am not Dennis, but Dennis is pictured here as he is the contact at our stand today. So he will do a presentation later at the Denmark stand, so you can ask him any questions you might have. I have put my email here as well. My name is Nina, and I am managing our travel trade work. So feel free to send me an email as well if you have any questions. So just to get the basics in place first. Denmark is the smallest of the Scandinavian countries and also the southernmost of the Scandinavian countries. We only have direct borders with Germany, as you can see on the map here. The rest of Denmark is surrounded by the sea. And this means that Denmark has more than 4,500 miles of white sandy beaches, and also we have more than 400 islands. In fact, we do have 444. And we showcase Denmark here in a Scandinavian context because we do know some clients are curious about the whole region, so it's just good to get Denmark placed here. And also, as we are more south than most of the Scandinavian countries, our climate is also a bit milder than the other countries. And then looking at Denmark's size, as I mentioned, Denmark is the smallest of the Scandinavian countries. And from a UK perspective, it's quite fun to compare the Piccadilly line with Denmark. So if you do want to ride the Piccadilly line from one end to the other, it will take you 1 hour and 40 minutes. And then if you look at the whole of Denmark, in 1 hour and 40 minutes, you can actually drive between the 4 major cities. So 1 hour and 40 minutes between each. And actually, if you fly from one end to the other, it's 35 minutes. And if you look at the flight time from the UK to Denmark, that's also only 1 hour and 40 minutes. So clients coming from the UK will definitely find Denmark small, but we see it as a strength because that actually means they can see a lot in a very short amount of time. Yeah, and as you can see here, we have the map with the 4 major cities that I mentioned just before. It's also important to mention that these are connected by the main train line in Denmark, which I will also get back to. It's also good to know that Denmark has Danish kroners. You don't need to tip in Denmark as everything is included in the price. And also it's good to know that most Danes speak fluently English. I mention this because if your clients feel lost or have questions, most likely any Dane they ask will be able to help. And again, size-wise, you can just see here Denmark has just short of 6 million people, so a small but very interesting country. And then looking at why choosing Denmark as a holiday destination, one of the reasons that people choose Denmark is the curiosity about New Nordic cuisine. Denmark is the home of the New Nordic cuisine, and if anybody here is familiar with the New Nordic food scene, they will know that it started at Noma in Denmark, which for several years was the world's best restaurant. And they made this New Nordic Food Manifesto, and that changed the whole food scene in the Nordic region. So now you can find the Michelin Guide Nordic focusing only on the Nordic countries, but also you will see that if you go to a lot of other types of restaurants, so not Michelin-star restaurants, they also now serve New Nordic food. And it's all about locally sourced food that is in season, most likely also served in a beautiful Danish designed setting. Denmark is also known for happiness. We are a country where people feel very happy. You might not see Danes skidding about, high-fiving each other, but it's a certain sense of happiness and content. And then going back to the size of Denmark, Denmark is a wonderful holiday destination as you can easily combine the seaside with a city. In fact, in Denmark, you're never more than 30 minutes away from the seaside. So it's really an amazing thing that you can go on a city break, but also go to the sea. We are also the home of Lego. Lego is actually short for like God, which means play well. So if you fly into Billund, which is also our second major airport, you can see the original Legoland. And right next to Legoland, you can now also visit Lego House, where any playful souls who might have grown up with Lego can even go and find a digital catalog of all Lego boxes ever invented. And then it's also important to mention that in Denmark, locals and visitors, they quite easily mix. And that's because it is quite a small country. So the places that are built to make, for example, Copenhagen really livable is for the citizens, but then it also becomes fun for the visitors. So here we talk maybe elevated bike lanes or trampolines on the sidewalk or green solutions, the fact that we have more more bikes than cars. So this becomes a reason to go, but it's built for the people in Denmark. And also an example, if you look at the bottom left-hand corner, you can see the King's Garden and the Rosenborg Castle. This is where the Danish crown jewels are, so it's a wonderful place to go and see as a visitor. But you can also see here on the grass that locals are chilling out with their bikes in the grass. The same is present if you go and see where our current monarch, Queen Margaret II, lives. You can get up quite close to the palace. It is not fenced off in the same way that, for example, it is in the UK, and you will see the square in the middle of the palace is used as a regular spot to pass on your way around Copenhagen. So it's quite unique. And then it's also important to mention that Denmark is perfect for many types of travelers. It's a very family-friendly destination, and this is not only in relation to Lego, it's also in relation to the fact that most museums now have a kids zone or family-friendly activities, treasure hunts. So kids are really welcome, and Denmark is a very family-oriented society. It's a very romantic destination because we have one of the oldest monarchies in the world, so it's dotted with castles, so you can even do a castle stay if you wish to. Again, nature with loads of seaside. We are a wonderful biking destination because it's basically flat as a pancake, so it's very leisurely biking as well. And then if you have clients interested in history, then the Viking legacy is definitely still interesting as well. And we have multiple Viking ship museums and open-air Viking museums as well. And then just diving into Copenhagen, our capital city. So why choose Copenhagen as a holiday destination? It is one of the most livable cities in the world. It's clean, small, and very easy to navigate. You can go around by foot, or by bike, or by public transportation. It's good to notice that the city has more bikes than cars, which means it's quite clean and not so noisy. Again, Copenhagen is also a top gastronomy destination. In fact, Noma has reopened in a new part of Copenhagen called Refshaleøen, which is definitely a spot to go to explore how Copenhagen keeps developing. It's a very safe city as well. The thing about Copenhagen is that it's, like I mentioned, it has been built for the citizens. So in order to understand how Copenhagen has been developed to become this happy city, you can, for example, book a guided biking tour, a guided walking tour focusing on architecture, or a guided small boat tour where you really get under the skin of Copenhagen and why it is such a livable place. And then a few of the largest attractions that people are interested in, specifically if they haven't been before. We have Tivoli Gardens, which is the second oldest amusement park in the world. It is right next to the central station, and you don't need to be a thrill rider. You can go there and enjoy the park, twinkling lights, good food, and the beautiful atmosphere. They have 3 seasons now, so they change the decorations between each season, and there's always something new to see. We do have in 2019, the Metro Circle line opened, so now it's much easier to get from one point to the next in Copenhagen with public transportation as well. And you can actually go and see the different neighborhoods as well. Then we have small boat tours. We always recommend to take the smaller tours as they give you more in-depth knowledge about Copenhagen. There's the Amalienborg Palace, where the current queen lives, the Marble Church, and New Harbor, which is what you recognize from postcards, full of colorful houses, the Little Mermaid as well, and Rosenborg Castle, as I mentioned before. And just a note about the Little Mermaid: if your clients do want to go, do it on a boat tour or some sort of guided tour where you can go that way, just because she's quite small. So yeah, it's just good to combine her with something else. And then just to mention a few city center gems, which is all in walking distance from the central station. In Tivoli Gardens, as I mentioned before, they actually now also have a Tivoli food hall, so you can actually go here and enjoy quite amazing food from all over the world. And in Tivoli Garden as well, I recommend exploring their food scene. These are some of the examples. Gemüse, it's a vegetarian restaurant, which you see on the picture here. We have Copenhagen, where you can explore cakes, and the Nym Hotel in Tivoli as well is also really high quality and has really good drinks and food as well. Right next to Tivoli Gardens, you can find quite a gem called Glyptoteket. It's a winter garden where you can go and enjoy beautiful sculptures, plants, and just very beautiful atmosphere, and also go and have some nice coffee and cake. And there's some people who might already know Denmark here will know about Danish cakes and Danish layered cakes. And if you want the real good stuff, you should go to the La Glace conditory in central Copenhagen. When you do go out of Copenhagen Central Station and then start walking down the pedestrian street Strøget, try and go down the side streets, because you'll find little cobbled streets such as Læderstræde, and peek into small coffee houses, because this is where the Danes live, and this is where you sort of find a more sort of localized experience. And then just some examples as well of like the hotels in Copenhagen. They keep developing, so now they have good bars and good restaurants as well, which are less known than many of the other places. So that's also good to check out. And just an example here of the atmosphere of the places that I just mentioned. You have Glyptoteket here with the girl taking a picture. Even a pirate ship in Tivoli Gardens where you can have tapas. Tivoli Gardens, here you can see the atmosphere in the evening, old cobbled streets, the cakes, the atmosphere at the hotel here. So you can just sort of get a sense of the atmosphere of these places, and which is why we recommend you sort of going a bit off the beaten path in Copenhagen as well. Yeah, and now we're just moving into a bit about news from Denmark as well. Yeah, and in Odense, which is the city that I mentioned before in the island of Funen, in June this year, they will open the new Hans Christian Andersen Museum. And as you can see in these pictures here, it looks absolutely magical and amazing. It is designed by the Japanese architect Kenko Kuma, who also has designed the Tokyo Olympic Stadium. And it's going to be this sort of fantasy garden, an interactive environment, and it's more about being in the fairy tales that Hans Christian Andersen wrote, rather than going through his life story. So it just envisioned this magical, interactive fairy tale garden. It's gonna look absolutely amazing. And then in Legoland, as I mentioned, they also have a new Lego movie world, which actually will be Scandinavia's first flying theater and also include a spaceship playground. Yeah, and then we have the Marsh Tower, which is situated in the UNESCO Wadden Sea area as well. And this will ensure visitors a wonderful panoramic view over this quite unique place in Denmark. And if any of you have ever heard me mention oyster safaris, this is the area where you can also do oyster safaris. Yeah, and then something quite unique is glamping with elephants at the Knuthenborg Manor House estate, which is also Scandinavia's largest safari park. And this is a new concept where they're welcoming guests to wake up with a view to the beautiful elephant park. And then in the evenings, visitors will also have a guide telling you about the area and about the elephants. And then in the morning, you can wake up and enjoy the cute view. Yeah, and then we have the area just south of the island of Funen, which is the island where Odense is. They will open the Funen or South Funen Archipelago Visitor Center in Faaborg. And it's quite good because the area is getting more popular as a outdoor spot. And at this visitor center, you will be able to book ranger guided snorkeling tours, horseback riding, and other activities in nature. And then we also have Stevns Klint Visitor Center, which is also incredibly interesting. It's on the southern part of the island Zealand, where Copenhagen is. And it's actually one of the best spots in the world to see the sediments caused by the asteroids that wiped out more than 50% of life on Earth more than 66 million years ago, including the dinosaurs. And now they will have a visitor center where you can learn more about the area and why it's so unique. And then we also have another visitor center opening up in Thy National Park. And this is also quite good to offer more of a story about why this area is as beautiful and unique as it is. And the visitor center will even offer underground views of the sea, the sky, and also the local fishing towns. And then just a bit about when to visit. So May to September will be summer October and December is more wintry and Christmassy. But again, our climate is quite mild. Summer months can actually get up to 29 Celsius. That's a bit high, but it can actually reach those temperatures. And you will see Danes spending the summer on the beach. But winter and off-season is also quite a good time to go, as prices are cheaper and things are less busy, and also Christmas in Denmark is just absolutely beautiful. And then a bit about our travel trade tools. You can see here we have online training. We have our Visit Denmark travel trade portal, which is the link that I would recommend you just look at, because then we have links for everything else in there. We have a media bank, a product manual, a range of itineraries and webinars. And if you go to the webinar link, which you can also find on the travel trade portal, you can also see all our upcoming webinars. And then we also have a wonderful Copenhagen has a Copenhagen specific online training program. And then just quickly about COVID, I think it's important to mention that in Denmark we do have this safe to visit guidelines, which is organized by the Association for Hotels, Restaurants and Attractions. And it's everybody who gets this sticker and partake in the program are making sure that they follow this 5-step program to have a COVID safe environment. And on our website you can also learn more about COVID in Denmark and how it's developing. So check in there, and then we just all have to bear in mind how the travel regulations between the UK and Denmark is changing. Currently the Danish government has planned to have everybody in Denmark fully vaccinated by the end of August this year. Yeah, and then of course you can't do Q&As right now because it's pre-recorded, but feel free to send Dennis or I an email or pop to the Denmark stand with any questions you might have. Thank you very much.